My name is Ken Nolland. I am a field engineer with Unity. I primarily do a lot of work with core development, and I also work to help our sales and support people. So I do a lot of mixture of various tasks, including getting on stage and evangelizing Unity as well. So I actually have a full presentation prepared, but that's not happening. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell you guys a little bit about some tips and tricks in Unity without slides. So this will be kind of flying a little blind. So how many people in the audience have used Unity? Okay. How many people would consider yourselves experts in Unity? Okay. So Unity is a great tool for obviously creating games. We support a lot of various platforms. We obviously have a lot of support for mobile and consoles and PC, and we're continuing to grow our list of platforms every day. One of the things that we're doing for Unity 4 is we're releasing for Windows and Windows 8 and Windows Phone 8 as well. So we're going to have continued development for future platforms as well. So it's pretty good time to actually start creating games in Unity. One of the things that we've introduced in Unity 4.0 is DirectX 11 support. By using DirectX 11, you can actually get better graphics fidelity and better graphics performance. And using a lot of the DirectX 11 primitives, you can actually get a lot of performance enhancements as well, using compute shaders and using various other performance methods. So with 4.0, we also visited a lot of performance issues, load time issues. We addressed a lot of streaming asset issues, bundle issues. We've addressed a lot of various small things that just generally increase the performance of the game. One of the demos that I actually have is of Butterfly. We call it the Butterfly demo. And it's available online. Basically, it's a very quick, short movie that showcases Unity's capabilities when it comes to rendering high-performance graphics. It's a great demonstration of what's actually possible, and everything in that demo can be run in real time if you've got a very super high-end PC. Yeah, I guess I'll get on with the tips and tricks. Now, like I said, I'm doing this without the slides, so it's kind of weird talking about programming stuff without programming stuff on screen. So I'll just list off a couple of quick tips and tricks, and hopefully during this time the display will start working. So one of the unknowns, like I don't actually know a lot of Unity users who know this, but when you start Unity, if you hold down the Alt key, you can actually specify which project. We get a lot of bug reports, or we get a lot of support issues saying, help, Unity doesn't start because my default project crashes on load. So if you hold down Alt key, you can select a different project, or try to fix that particular project, repair that particular project, so that you're not faced with crashing stuff. Another tip that I always like to point out is we enable editor extensions, and please use them. One of the demonstrations that I have is of a very simple 2D platformer game, and the demonstration showcases a little bit about the editor extensions. And how you can use editor extensions to really increase your workflow. You can add buttons to the UI, you can create menu items to the UI, and all you really have to do is put this directly into an editor plugins folder, and it just works. So, yeah. Another thing I like to point out is there's a very simple function called load level additive async. And that function is incredibly useful for a lot of various reasons. First of all, it allows you to create entirely streaming worlds. So you can create various levels and stitch them together programmatically using triggers. So as you approach any particular boundary, you can load up the next level or unload a previous level. You can organize your levels in such a way that all objects within that particular chunk that you want to unload are held within a single common hierarchy, so that all you have to do to unload that level is delete the parent object, and since everything's reference counted, it just automatically cleans up the memory from everything else. So low-level additive async is great for creating streaming worlds. But one feature that I've recently started using it for was actually creating all my debug functions in a separate level, and using those debug functions to create overlays on the screen that show me my performance, or show me various physics issues, or various little tweaks that really help out with the general debugging of game development. So I use that in some of my own projects just to separate the debug functions from the release functions. And when I go to publish that, when I go to publish the actual application, all I have to do is uncheck the debug scene, and none of the debug functions that I've created will be included in the final project. And speaking of debug functions, another thing that I use quite frequently is kind of a tip, is compiler response files. How many people here are familiar with compiler response files? Nobody. Okay, compiler response files basically allow you to pass parameters directly into the compiler. What I use them for is creating preprocessor defines. Preprocessor defines are basically ways of flagging the compiler at compile time that a particular section of code doesn't actually need to be included. So you can use compiler response files to basically compile out entire sections of code that you don't need in the final release. Or if you're building for, if you're just testing a particular function, you can create a personal compiler response file, and you can play with that particular function or enable specific features within your game, all using the compiler response file. Hey! Wow. I don't even know how much time I've got left, actually. 10 minutes.
Few rude words and magic, and it's happened.
Did you hit it a few times?
Trust me.
All right, so I've kind of covered a little bit about the presentation, but right now I will go ahead and open up a few projects actually in Unity. So, it's a little small. Can everybody see that?
Yeah, it's possible to see that on the side screens.
Okay. So this is a simple 2D platformer that I was talking about earlier. When I was talking about the editor extensions, I've got a little pop-up window here that just says 2D. So when I hit play, oh, I need the keyboard for this. It's just a character that walks back and forwards and interacts with the environment. And so to create this 2D platformer, normally you would have to go through and select individual boxes. Because this has a rigid body, you also have to put constraints on the rigid body to make sure that it doesn't move off the 2D plane. So I've got a simple function here called make selection 2D rigid body that actually freezes the rigid body so that it corresponds to a particular axis, which enables you to actually basically quickly add items to a 2D scene. So you'll notice when I played it, even though it's a 2D screen, you're still getting a lot of parallax, which basically means you're getting a 3D projection even though it's a 2D game. So another thing that Unity is really great at is, if I can find the camera, I can actually just select the camera, and I can barely read this. Select orthographic, hit play, and now it's a completely 2D side-scrolling platformer. So Majority of you have used Unity, so I presume I don't need to go through all the various windows within Unity. Just a real quick overview though. This is your scene view, which contains your editor controls, your hierarchy, which is basically what's currently active in the scene, your inspector, which contains all the little gadgets you use to change the properties of whatever it is that you've currently got selected in the scene, your game view, which actually is a live representation of your game, and you can actually hit play and play your game and watch as in the scene view you can actually see the character walking around, and in the game view you can also see the character walking around. So it allows you to just quickly, rapidly iterate through the development cycle. Everything within our UI has been try to keep it as clean as possible. Project view is just basically a collection of all the assets that you currently have available in your project. And so I think that's pretty much it for 2D. Another little example that I like to point out is our asset store has several various things on it. One of my favorite things is something called Detonator. Detonator is a really cool package that, and it's freely available. It was developed by Unity actually. And Detonator is a really cool package that allows you to just play around with explosions. It's an entirely parametrically driven explosion system, so I can just sit there and generate different explosions. And this is stuff that's freely available on the asset store. That was just a simple little explosion called Insanity. And this one is by far my favorite. It's a very big boom. And yeah, you can get stuff like this available for free on the asset store, and the boxes are still falling. So yeah, another project that I wanted to real quickly showcase you, and this will be the last one, is the Mechanism project, which I can barely read this screen. Yeah. There's a bit of a delay for my mouse, so it's a bit difficult. Right, so this Mechanism project actually is, once again, something that's freely available on the web. The Mechanism project kind of showcases our new animation system called Mechanism. It's kind of our shiny new toy for 4.0 that allows you to really quickly and easily create very complex animation systems and animation networks. As a quick example of this, I'm going to open up the animator controller. And this is a very, very simple game type thing where basically I hit play and I've got a character that I can run around, bump into things, and the animations are completely all blended together. One of the nice things about Mechanism is that while I'm playing the game, I can go through and select the actual character itself. And if I select the animator window, I can actually live see what's actually happening with the character itself. So as I'm running around the scene in the game view, I can actually watch what's going on within the various animations. The run animation has several sub-animations that it's actually blending into. And so here I'll go back into the scene, select the character, and run around, and you can see the little blue line actually showing how much I'm blending from one animation to the next. There's all sorts of little tips and tricks with Mechanim that are actually just really cool. One of the best things you can do is go onto the website and download the Mechanim tutorial. The Mechanim tutorial can kind of showcase all of the features that are available for Mechanim. Well, not actually, it doesn't even cover all. It's just Mechanim's a huge system, but it'll introduce the base features of Mechanim for you. So definitely check that out. And I think I've run out of time, although the clock hasn't really moved. Okay. Well, I'm going to be available for the rest of the afternoon. If you have any Unity-specific questions, like I said, I'm a technical guy, so I can possibly answer any of the technical type of questions that you have. And so let me know if you have any questions. And that's it.
Спасибо. У нас есть время буквально на 2-3 вопроса, поэтому если есть вопросы, поднимайте руки. Вопросы могут быть самого глубокого технического характера. Если вопросов нет, вы тогда можете поймать Кена дальше в кулуарах и мучить его там самыми интересными вопросами, тыкать пальцем в монитор, и он покажет вам что-то интересное, и того, что, к сожалению, не успели показать здесь. Вопросы есть? Технотусовка, вопросов нет. It's a technical guy, you know.
Yeah, maybe I have like a very general question, but maybe you can, say a couple of words, just general numbers about the company, like what are the countries where you're most presented, where you're most admired, right? I mean, what is your monetization, like major monetization model, right? Just general question, general numbers about the company, because I know you're growing like crazy. So what is the current status?
Well, currently we sit at 240-something employees, and actually, Oleg's going to be covering a lot of the details of the company structure itself during his presentation, so I don't want to intrude on his particular presentation. The general idea is that we sell Unity for one fixed cost. You pay one license fee, and you can release as many games as you want. There's no contract with you to give us 10% revenue or anything. We don't do that. We just it's $1,500 US for a pro license, and there's various different license options as well. So I'm actually not an expert when it comes to the license options, but Oleg might be able to go into more detail about that.
Yeah, I see.
Скажите, пожалуйста, были какие-то улучшения в создании отладки в реал-тайме, то есть брейкпоинты, там, остановы, в 4-й версии именно?
Did we improve debugging? Was that the question? We've improved a lot of our profile counters, and we've improved a lot of our ability to actually see what's going on within the engine itself. As far as debugging, we've got Visual Studio integration now. Visual Studio 2012 is coming with Windows Phone 8 and Windows 8 Desktop as well. And so when we get the Visual Studio support, obviously you've got full debugging capabilities within Visual Studio, which will make debugging a lot easier. So that's coming very soon.
I've seen a butterfly project in your Unity folder. Can you show it to me, maybe on this screen, maybe on laptop? Because I think that not just me, but community, a lot of people want to see it in real time. I know really a huge amount of people who doesn't trust that this video can be, that these graphics can be
done real time.
Right.
Actually, my particular laptop has an Intel integrated video card. So, no, I can't do it on mine. Oleg, can you?
Do you have maybe right?
These things, I mean, to run the butterfly demo in real time, you need Intel i7 GPU, then you need 16 gig of RAM, then the project itself takes 60 gig of space, but you need SSD for it to run smoothly. Then the GPU is 108. Okay. And the GPU is, I mean, the one we use for creating it is GTX 580. So I mean, it's the GPU you can buy, like, so it's not, you know, it's not a graphics station. That's just GPU you can buy. But we tried to run it on the laptop, on a 15-inch Retina display, like MacBook with Retina display. So the latest one, I think it was about 20 FPS, right?
Certain scenes were running at about 15 frames per second. We've got some smaller scenes that were running at 30 and 40 frames per second. When it comes to the actual performance on my laptop, I can't get it to run because it doesn't have the graphics capabilities. Otherwise, I'd love to show it to you. One of the things you can do is go to our website, on the videos website. We actually have a Unite keynote where Joachim, our CTO, actually goes up and demonstrates the full butterfly demo, opening it up in the editor. He's got a much more powerful laptop than I do. So I definitely recommend that if you would like to see it actually running in real time. So yes,
Thanks.
you can? Yes. Well, you've got an NVIDIA chip, so I just have the Intel one. Can't do it.
You will do some demo?
Well, I mean, you can go for questions.
Okay. This is going to take a little bit of time, so if there's another question, we can possibly get to that.
Okay, great. We have one more question here.
Hey there.
Hi.
Although the package is called Unity 3D, you might know that many people making 2D titles. So how 2D support is going to be implemented into the fourth version of the package?
What particular 2D support are you looking for?
I mean, we have, for our project, we have to use Toolkit 2D, which is available in your app store, asset store, whatever. And I heard that, I don't remember the particular guy who said that he was from Unity team, but he was telling that the support of 2D graphics, 2D rendering sprites, etc., will be improved substantially in the next installment of Unity. So could you spill some beans on that?
But it's not particularly 2D sprites per se. It's our entire graphics. A lot of our graphics has been revamped and optimized heavily, not specifically just for 2D, but because of things like Shuriken, which is our particle system, and because of other things that we do with billboard sprites. So we spend a lot of time focusing on how we can make that more optimal. One of the biggest requests we also get for 2D is vector graphics. And so we've started implementing support for vector graphics as well to allow you to create different resolutions of the same art assets, basically. So you can create high resolution clouds and stuff like that for Retina displays and still have the same clouds running on a very old phone. So that's something that we've also started working on, but I don't have a release date for when that'll be available. There are also, the 2D toolkit is actually a really amazing one when it comes to being able to set up your parallax, pixel perfect parallax, and pixel perfect 2D effects. And as far as simple editor extensions, we prefer to try to keep as much to the community and open source than trying to build everything into the editor, making the editor overly complex. That's kind of our driving methodology behind our development, is making sure that we keep the editor as simple as possible and extensible, rather than trying to make it a 2D editor or trying to make a just a 3D editor kind of thing.
Спасибо большое. Мы уже немножко залезли на следующий доклад. Пожалуйста, поблагодарим. У вас есть отличная возможность